Hello, everybody. Welcome in to another episode of the Couch GMs podcast. It is Friday, December 30th, 2022. I'm your host, George Kerth, joined by the two best friends anyone could ask for, Tyler Snyder, Cody Roadcap in the house. Guys, how are you feeling heading into the new year?
Feeling great.
I mean, it could be better. I
did.
did just watch my Titans down 49-0 at the half, so that sucks. But it's all right. Still here, still ready to go on to next year.
Sorry, Cody, what'd you say?
I said going great. Trying to finish the new year strong.
Much different than Tyler's answer, but we'll know more about how the Titans fared on Thursday night after we record. We record on Thursdays, so we are on this show, though, going to talk the rest of Week 17. We're going to hit some NFL news and notes, and we are going to break down Week 17 with our Week 17 preview. Get you guys ready for your fantasy championships. Make sure you find us on thecouchgms.com and our social media channels, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, at the Couch GMs. And you can join our Discord chat to chat with us at any time. And I think that's it. I think we can move into NFL news. I feel like I missed something in that intro. If I did, you guys can go tell me on social media, and I'll have to correct it for next time. But NFL news, we're going to start off with everyone's favorite NFL player, Tom Brady, who, as of the day of this recording, December 29th, 2022, Tom Brady has spent exactly half of his life in the NFL, 8,292 days. 8,292 days of us saying, why do we have to keep watching Tom Brady? And he is still going. So, guys, how does that make you feel?
I'm excited for him to get to 9,000.
It's fun watching him suck now, so that's kind of cool. But no fantasy relevance.
Still going to win a playoff game.
Meh.
And you say, yeah, I mean, probably. I hope so personally, because he's probably going to play against the Cowboys, but that's just me. Getting to 9,000, that would be a few more years. I know Gronk says he has 5 years left in him. I personally really hope he doesn't, but he may. I mean, he's here to torture us, isn't he? We can move on then to the Houston Texans, who are exploring the possibility of having new uniforms in 2024, and they are starting with fan surveys. So Couch GMs out there everywhere, you can have a say on what the Houston Texans jersey looks like, and be nice, because we remember what happened to the Cleveland Browns. I know Tyler brought that up before the show started, so props to you.
Yeah, so with the new jerseys, let's have a micro debate. Really, I'm just going to ask you, who has the best jersey in the NFL and who has the worst jersey in the NFL? So what are some of the things fans should be pushing their teams for and telling them teams to stay away from? Throw it on the spot.
Well, I don't know why we're even debating this, because the Texans, honestly, all they need to do is put trash bags on, and it'll be a great new uniform. It'll fit their team and their franchise. But I would say worst jerseys in the NFL are either the Cleveland Browns or the new Commanders jerseys. Those would be my two worst ones.
Okay. I absolutely actually hate the Commanders jerseys. I'm just
That's
saying,
what I said.
like, okay, good.
My least favorite.
Okay, good. I mixed you up there. You can go ahead, call me biased. The Chargers powder blues are probably my favorite, but I've always liked powder blue color regardless of the team. So I think that's probably my favorite. Least favorite, I would go with the Commanders, but I want to give a shout out to the old Buccaneers jerseys with the like tech looking letter, like numbering. Like that was a bad one.
Favorite wise, I would say that my old favorite used to be the Carolina Panthers. Something about that black with the neon blue just looked really sexy. But my new favorite jersey, and it has to be the full uniform, not just the jersey, and that's the Atlanta Falcons. Going from that red that fades into black with the black pants, like, it's such a cool look. I love the fade, and like altogether, it looks really nice. Just the jersey doesn't look quite as cool, but the full uniforms look beautiful.
So, I mean, I know we trashed the Jaguars for the fade helmets, but you like the fade jerseys, not the fade helmets, or did you like the fade helmets too?
Well, that's because they tried to do a fade, and then they had like a hard cutoff, so it just looked dumb.
You're
Like,
not
if they
wrong.
had more of a fade, it would look better.
Interesting. I was actually going to, put the Falcons in the bottom for me because I'm not a huge fan of the gradient on the jersey. So I guess it's a specific, a unique taste for some people. I think the Commanders are another good one at poor, but I do think like they're just so disconnected. Like some of them are good, they just don't work together cohesively. So as the Texans fans out there, like don't just pick 3 cool designs that would look good by themselves. Make sure they all tie together. But favorites, call me crazy, but I like the clean look. So the teams that I think the Bills have some clean forms. I think the Raiders, I think they're white and silvers. I think that's super clean. So maybe I'm just a little bit too boring.
Clean or basic, because it's just basically like one color with a number on it. Nothing cool about those jerseys at all. Like the Raiders jerseys are cool because black and silver go well together, but the jersey itself is just bland. Especially the Bills. Like it's just blue. Like who cares?
I mean, the Giants is just blue. The Bills add a little bit to it, I think.
Yeah, they have red and white in there.
And then, like, what are your thoughts on like the traditional looking jerseys, like the 49ers, for example? Like they've had the same jerseys, I feel like, for about an eternity, but like they're classic.
The 49ers, like retro throwback color rush, the all white ones, the best jersey in the NFL. But like the Packers, the 49ers, the Cowboys, like the Chicago Bears, like don't whatever they did with the orange, like that's too much. But like those classic teams, they have their classic look, so we don't have to mess with those. They kind of get like grandfathered in. But some of these younger teams, like the Houston Texans, maybe they should try to spice it up.
Nobody mentioning the Seattle Seahawks, and I think that's one of the fan favorites with that neon green.
I like the neon green, but I wasn't thinking more of a specific uniform. I was thinking as like home away alternate, like teams with the best combo of them. And I'm not a huge fan of like the Seattle Blues, but I do like the greens. Talking specifically one uniform.
I think that's enough time on jerseys, guys. It's fantasy championship week. We got to keep it moving.
All right, well, let's keep it moving to something that's not fantasy relevant, I guess. Next thing on our news docket is Terrell Owens wants to come back. Cue everyone laughing. He's 49 years old. He's in talks with the Dallas Cowboys, among other teams. I think there's an AFC contender who also is in the talks. Do you really think he could make an impact at 49?
Yeah, why not?
No.
I'm with Cody, sure. But I don't know.
Is he going to be like the stud Terrell Owens that he was before? No. But like, can he go out there and make a catch or two? Sure. Can he do better than Laquan Treadwell? Probably. Like,
sure, he can do T.Y. Hilton. He can catch on a 3rd and 30.
Yeah, why not?
I get it. That was a good shot there, Cody. Props. And then we do have, finally, before we get out of news, some retirement news to talk about. J.J. Watt announced his retirement this week, so best to him. I'm going to let Tyler take the floor for about 15 seconds to talk about J.J. Watt and how much he loved him.
J.J. Watt's overrated. That's all I need to say. About time he's out of the league.
Okay, yeah. We just lost credibility because that's a terrible take.
It's not a terrible take.
Yes, it is.
He has Tyler's passes before. That's pretty impressive.
I will say the NFL didn't. I will say the NFL did not track pass knockdowns at the line of scrimmage until J.J. Watt came into the league. So I will give Tyler that. But
or you could argue that he made it something worth tracking for because it wasn't as common. The NBA used to not play with a 3-point line. Michael Jordan started his career without a 3-point line. They added that. Now Steph Curry is the best basketball players ever because he can shoot the 3 really well. Just because you help create something doesn't mean you're overrated.
It's a media award. That's why it's 3-time.
And then finally, safety Clinton Dix has also announced his retirement. I know he played for the Packers for a while, so anything you have to say, Cody?
Yeah, shout out to Ha. Both JJ and him. Wishing them nothing but best in retirement, and congrats Ha on a good career and JJ Watt on a Hall career.
And then finally, before we move on, so they have a little bit of fantasy relevance here in news. Quarterback controversies are starting to stir up here in the NFL. I could start with the Thursday night game, and because we don't know exactly what's going to happen in this game, Malik Willis was benched by the Tennessee Titans. It was not just a benching their starter situation. From what we understand, it is actually Malik Willis being benched. So, Tyler, give us a quick breakdown. We'll have a quick debate on how this affects the Titans going forward, and if this does affect any of their fantasy assets if you happen to play next week.
Yeah, you draft a raw quarterback knowing that he needs development before he makes that stride, and then bench him because he didn't make the stride immediately. It's a joke. So instead, let's see what we can do with a guy who has been riding practice squads for the last 6 years. Sure. Why not, Titans? We're tanking for the pick.
It's Josh Dobbs, if anyone doesn't know who now is named the starter for the Titans. But it's not a great look. We'll have to see, obviously, how this shakes out going into next season with Willis versus Tannehill versus another potential quarterback. It's obviously going to be effective if the Titans end up beating the Jaguars in Week 18. When it comes to a fantasy outlook, if you play in Week 18, Derrick Henry's probably still fine because they're going to have to ride him to beat the Jaguars. But if you had any thoughts of any of the pass catchers, it's definitely a tall order now.
Is it, though? Like, is it much different in terms of a pass catcher with Josh Dobbs? Like, that's one of the big problems with Malik Willis. And I understand what Tyler's saying and the frustration with, benching him. If you knew he was going to be raw, I said I wouldn't have played him at all this season. It would have been a true redshirt year. But they end up playing him. But I do wonder, and we'll have to find out, one, how much we saw it already with the A.J. Brown. How much of this was Josh Robinson versus Mike Vrabel. Robinson's out. Mike Vrabel will be there next year. So that'll play into next year. And two, I said this, Tyler hated it. But it did, there is other people out there that Tyler has talked for weeks how bad the injuries have just piled on for not Malik Willis, but for the Tennessee Titans as a whole. At some point, you have to weigh, is it even worth risking to put him out there, a guy that already needs a lot of development, putting him in bad situations, helping the bad mistakes keep building up because there's nothing else there to do, or just pulling him back in and saying, hey, we're going to reset, get ready for next year, and move on. So I think next year is going to give us a lot of answers on this, a lot that we don't know right now. But still, definitely was probably the second biggest surprise of the week.
Yeah, setting somebody up for failure is definitely a confidence killer, but getting benched has never helped anybody's confidence. So, gonna have to see how that works. I think Willis's career with the Titans is done. I know that's early to say, but I just think this is a crusher for the confidence. He's done as a Titan. Eventually, when he leaves, maybe we'll get another shot. But that is not the biggest quarterback news of the week. Another quarterback was benched, and it might be for contract issues. But it's Derek Carr, a guy that we have gone back and forth over the last few years of, is he average? Is he good? Is he bad? It depends on which week we're talking, but still very shocking to see that Derek Carr was benched. I think this means that Carr's run in Vegas is over, and with him being done in Vegas, that means Devontae Adams has no interest in being on the Raiders anymore either after this season.
I don't think the second part of that is completely true. I think a big reason he is in Las Vegas is because of Derek Carr. But I don't think that it's automatic. If Derek Carr's not there, that automatically means he's going to force a trade or anything like that. He still got paid a huge amount of money, which obviously he could get if he got traded. But another big factor was it's very close to home for him. It was the first time in his career his grandma was able to come to a game. So there is some other factors to that. We'll have to wait and see. The money thing, this one surprised me, though, because we just saw last week Ryan got benched for the exact same reason. He had a clause in his contract. If he gets injured and he can't pass his physical to start the new league year, he's owed X amount of guarantees. Well, in Derek Carr case, that was over $40 million in guarantees if he doesn't hurt. What surprises me, though, is that the Raiders aren't eliminated. When the Colts did it, the Colts were eliminated from playoff contention. The Raiders are not. They need a lot of help to get in, but they would still be able to make the playoffs if things fell their way. So it does seem a little bit premature, but it does go back to some of the reports that were coming out a couple weeks ago about how the Raiders are actually cap poor in terms of an NFL franchise, and they don't have the $40 million to guarantee it if you were to. So that's some of the big business side. You think these teams have the money and stuff like that, but a lot of that money is tied up in the owners and when they're in terms of their value. But how much actual revenue they get is pretty interesting, especially with that new stadium, their new practice facilities and all that. So a lot of big business sides, and I think it has a major impact in fantasy, especially in the championship this week.
Yeah, it definitely does have some implications. And, the people came here for the fantasy purposes. So we will get to that game later on in our preview. But let's get on and get to our week 17 preview.
Week 17 will start off at Sunday at 1 o'clock. You almost got me there on the rundown, Cody. Arizona Cardinals taking on the Atlanta Falcons. We'll start with the Cardinals side of the ball. James Conner has not practiced yet as of Thursday this week with an illness. The fact that it came early in the week probably means he's going to be good to go, but we have to monitor that as we go forward. AJ Green went from did not practice to limited, but he's not really been a fantasy factor so far this season. Cardinals side of the ball, like they should be getting a quarterback back, but they have been a mess without Kyler Murray. Are we just playing James Conner here? Especially after DeAndre Hopkins burned us last week, or was that just the fact that it was Trace McSorley?
I'm playing D-Hop.
Only if it's Colt McCoy. If it's another week of Trace McSorley, no way.
Okay.
Yeah, but from everything I've seen, it looks like Colt McCoy will be back.
Right. That's the expectation I'm taking as well. But I'm just putting an asterisk next to it. I think D-Hop is that automatic starter that he is because of all the injury situations. If it is Trace McSorley, I would be out on D-Hop.
I think that's a good way to put it here. And then that's easy. Falcons side of the ball might be just as easy. So this is a good matchup. There's been a lot more Drake London since the quarterback change. But he has also fumbled. He's had some issues. Are you confident enough to go put him out there this week with these kind of like teams in a revolving door right now? Or are you still trying to stick with the running backs?
I definitely like the running backs more. I think Drake London could be potential flex option if you're in there. If you're in like a 12 to 14 man league, you might just be, not being able to pick up a guy off the waivers or something like that. Or if you have to, I think you could play him as a flex, but I think there is better options.
All right. Tyler agrees. I think that wraps up Cardinals Falcons. Not exactly the most exciting game in the window. And this one at least be a little more exciting. The Chicago Bears traveling to division rival the Detroit Lions. I'll start with the Bears side of the ball because, again, it should be fairly simple. Justin Fields, do we play a running back too? Is that it?
I like David Montgomery.
Okay.
I mean,
Lions defense has been a little better, but
Khalil Herbert is back, but I haven't seen him eat into Montgomery's carries just yet. There is always that chance that they do start giving Herbert some touches, trying to get him more involved because he is a dynamic player. But I do still like David Montgomery in this game, especially with, guys like Derrick Henry out this week and some other injuries around the league. You might need to play some running backs, so you could definitely do worse than Montgomery.
Yeah, I think Montgomery is a play this week for sure. And Fields, no brainer. I know he got less than 10 points last week, but he's still in your lineup. And I think both Lions running backs are in play this week. Both Swift and Jamal. I know neither of them have had dominant weeks the last couple, but I think that they can both be in your lineup in a positive matchup.
Okay, and then I don't really have any. I mean, well, I guess to finish the Lions side of the ball, Amon-Ra St. Brown is good to go. The other receivers are very boom or bust. Are we still on a DJ Chark or are we off?
I'm not playing Chark. I'd rather play London.
I'm not playing Chark.
All right, pretty simple there as well. Now we go to one of the interesting games. Oh, I mean, well, I honestly think that he was near the top of the streamers for the last few weeks because he's been pretty solid. I think he has 2 or 3 weeks in a row now over 20. The matchup's not bad. So I have him definitely near the top of my streamers.
Yeah, I'm there
not
too.
A bad streaming option.
All right. Interesting game then, number 1 from this week. We got the Jacksonville Jaguars traveling to the Houston Texans. So, as we can say from what the Titans did on Thursday, the Jaguars are in the same situation where their playoff lives come down to week 18. And we're still trying to figure out if they're going to play their starters or not. Doug Peterson seems to be a little bit shaded about it. He's trying to say like every single game matters. So like making it sound like they're going to, but we don't have a for sure word. One of the guys on the Jags we'll be looking at is Trevor Lawrence, who's a limited participant in practice, but he has been banged up for the last few weeks. I feel like there's going to be hard to give the fans insight on what to do with this game until we know more about how the Jags are going to handle it. But where do you think they're going to go?
I would say the Jags starters will play, but they'll only play a half.
Which is probably the worst scenario.
Yeah.
That's
I
what
would
that's
say. Yeah, I mean, it's a juicy matchup in the Texans, but at the same time, the Texans are one of the best teams against the pass just because they've been so bad against the run. So you're not really like dying to put Trevor Lawrence or even Christian Kirk in your lineup. But I think one of the bigger ones is Travis Etienne, who's been kind of disappointing these past couple of weeks. So if you can avoid playing any Jaguars, even in this good of a matchup, I probably would just to be safe. I wouldn't risk it in the championship.
But let me just say, so like, if we hear the starters are going to play, and we can always like go and say the expectation is, oh, they're going to play a half just to be safe going into a fantasy championship. But you say, like you say, they're so bad against the run and the tight end position stinks. Do you still play ETN and Ingram and that's it then?
So just to make sure I'm tracking, they're going to play at least a half.
You know they're going to play at least a half. You don't know if they're going to play a full game. Are those two good enough in a half against the Texans, against the poor Texans defense, to still play?
Yeah, I mean, I'd probably play them. Let me just backtrack. One, this week is one of the most complicated, intricate fantasy championship weeks I remember since I started playing fantasy football. Between a meaningless game in week 17 with all the marbles on week 18, teams that have clinched the playoff with some players with some nagging injuries, all the quarterback controversies. There's a lot of what ifs, and unfortunately, we don't have all the information at the time of recording that. But so this is a great reminder that we're active on Twitter all game day. We're updating it. We're retweeting news. We're answering questions. So make sure you follow us on there, and we'll know come game day inactives if the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to play their starters or not, or what Dougie P says the next couple days. And if they're going to go, I would play Travis Etienne. He has had 3 straight weeks, 10+ points. It's a really good matchup, even if he's limited a little bit. The running back position has become very sparse that I think I would still play him. And Ingram, he's a tight end, so sure. Unless Lawrence doesn't play, but they play everyone else.
Then you're still playing ETM and not Ingram.
Correct.
Got it. Anything to add, Tyler?
Nope,
that was good. Okay. Houston Texans side of the ball. And that's it. Right? Yeah, we're good. Okay. Denver Broncos traveling to the Kansas City Chiefs. Broncos are dealing with a couple of injuries. They have Greg Dulcich as it did not participate in practice on Wednesday and Thursday. Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton were both limited participants in practice on Thursday. There's been a lot of back and forth still on this whole Russell Wilson thing. We actually had Jerry Jeudy come out and defend Russell Wilson this week. They're on a new coach now as well. Where are you at on some of these potential plays for the Broncos? I guess Jeudy, maybe Sutton if you're confident in him coming back, Latavius Murray. Where are you at on these guys?
So I know it's going to be tough, especially after that Christmas Day game where they just got blasted by the Los Angeles Rams. But we have seen time and time again, earlier this year, Jeff Saturday got the Colts to win his first game. There's something about a new voice, the unexpected, coming in there, changing morale, giving it a weekly boost. And if you remember, this Kansas City Chiefs-Denver Broncos game, it started out hot for the Chiefs, but the Broncos battled back and made it kind of a game. So I think Jerry Jeudy, he had 3 touchdowns in their last matchup. That's probably not going to happen again, but he can be in your lineup. I think Russell Wilson, as bad as he has been, might be worth looking at for a streaming option if you're desperate or if you're in a 2-quarterback league. Not saying he's an average, flex option, but I don't know if there's 8. If it comes down to Russell Wilson or Jared Stidham or Russell Wilson or Josh Dobbs, if you had to make that decision, like in a 2-quarterback league.
Okay, Russell in a 2-quarterback league, that's a lot different than I thought you were saying. I was about to say that's the hottest take I've heard in the show, and Tyler's been here.
No, I'm not saying Russell Wilson is QB1 must start. But if you're in, a 16-team league and you were picking between, Derek Carr, Aaron Rodgers, and you're like, okay, well, maybe I have to pivot to Russell Wilson because of the matchups and Derek Carr not being there. He's a name to at least be in the mix. I wouldn't throw Sutton back in. He's been out too long. And then Latavius Murray, probably because the Chiefs defense isn't very good. You don't love it. Not a high ceiling guy, not a high ceiling guy, but hope for a touchdown.
I'd play Lat Murray, nobody else.
So
I think I'm on Latavius Murray and Jerry Jeudy. So that's all I've got. I'd hate to play none of them in a matchup against Kansas City where no matter how bad you are, you seem to be able to score points. So I'm going with Murray and Jeudy, and that's where I'm leaving it. Chiefs side of the ball, is it the normal people here? I guess the big question would be running backs. We've been leaning on Jerick McKinnon lately. Isaiah Pacheco's still been solid. Is it still both? One or the other? Neither?
I don't want to play either. I'm still rounding that last game up to a fluke, and I still think the Broncos team, I think this is going to be a really good matchup for the Kansas City Chiefs. I think there's going to be a lot to this. Isn't the same team it's literally the same team. It's not the same team we saw a week ago get destroyed by a beat up Rams team. It's divisional. I think it's going to be a closer game than people are giving it credit for. So I don't really like either running back for Kansas City. Maybe that's too hot of a take, but that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't really been on the Jerick McKinnon train, even with him putting up all the points, because I know as soon as I trust Jerick McKinnon in the championship, that's where Isaiah Pacheco comes in, or 80 passing attempts comes in, or something like that. I'm with Cody. I'm leaning towards neither if I can.
Okay. I mean, I think if I have a favorite this week, it's still going to be Pacheco just because of volume. Like the last 2 weeks, they played the bottom two teams in the league against running backs, which is why we were so high on Jerick McKinnon. And, we still thought Isaiah Pacheco was still good, even though McKinnon was still in there. I'm going to go with the volume if I have to. And other than that, I think we got Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes, Juju Smith-Schuster's still been pretty good. Anyone else you want to add there? Or should we move on?
We don't have anyone else to add, but just real quick too. One, I know it's fantasy championship week, but there's a lot of people out there that are playing for pride at this point, and we hit it on last week's show about playing your favorite. If you're not in the championship match, make the most of it. If you want to take a flyer on Russell Wilson, or you want to take a flyer and you want to be the guy that's like, the Couch GM said I couldn't play this guy and I did and I won my matchup, screenshot it and send it to us. I dare you. That'd be a lot of fun. And if you're in the 9th or 10th place game, you don't want to get stuck at a Waffle House for 24 hours seeing how many waffles you can eat, maybe you got to take a flyer on some of the guys that you never thought you would play. So have some fun this week. I know it's very frustrating when you're not in a championship matchup, but try to make the most of it, because in 3 weeks, you're going to be like, man, I really miss fantasy football. And we're all going to be there together. We're not going anywhere. But we have a lot of fun this last week.
That Waffle House punishment still was the best one I've ever heard. And if you have any fantasy league punishments for your person who finishes last place, send them to us, because we love hearing things like that. But anyway, back to the actual fantasy football discussion. We can move on to another divisional game, the Miami Dolphins traveling to the New England Patriots. And we have to start off with the whole Tua situation, or he is still not practicing with his concussion. I mean, honestly, for the Dolphins' sake, for Tua's sake, I kind of hope he sits out. But we don't know for sure yet. Where are you guys at on Tua?
He's out.
Out. Yeah.
I'm
2
I'm
concussions.
pretty sure.
No way.
3 concussions, I guess, technically.
I meant to bring this up when we were talking about Derek Carr, but do you know there's been 10 teams now that have started 3 or more quarterbacks this season? Like, that is a wild stat. The Miami Dolphins being one of them. That's why I brought it up now. And it stinks, because this is another thing. Tua's out. And Tyreek Hill, he's still in your lineup. Jalen Waddle is still in your lineup, but you're not as confident with those guys with Teddy Bridgewater. Teddy Bridgewater has been a serviceable player in the NFL, but you're just not as confident with them. It affects the run game. How much do you like Raheem Mostert? I think you're going to play one. It's going to be Raheem Mostert over Jeff Wilson. But the Patriots defense is pretty good.
Now, I want to really like one or the other, and I get why you say Mostert is the lead back. He probably is the more explosive back with how it's been playing. But, Jeff Wilson still actually outtouched him last week. so it makes me question on who we should be playing or if we should be playing both. When it comes to the Patriots defense, like they played solid against the Bengals, but Mixon still got his. So I'm trying to avoid both if I can help it, but I know there's a lot of teams out there that are in fantasy championships that have been, streaming running backs or kind of going with some of these mid-tier guys that I think you're okay to roll with them if you need them.
If I have to start one, I'm probably picking Mostert, just to, I guess, sum all that up. On the Patriots side of the ball, there's really not a whole lot that I like here either. Mac Jones is a definite no. I mean, the fans are chanting for Bailey Zappi anyway. There's really no receivers I like. The tight ends are too questionable, but the running backs, I mean, it really depends on health. I mean, last week, Stevenson looked like he was healthy enough to play, but he really let us down. A lot of people missed the fantasy championships because they were relying on Stevenson, and he really just didn't deliver. So I'm definitely nervous about playing them.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. If Stevenson said he's going to go, I'd keep him in my lineup just because of how I know it was a heartbreaker last week. I'm sorry, it probably did cost you, but I'd put him in my lineup. But outside of him, I'm not interested in any of the Patriots players.
Yeah, I'm with you there as well. Pretty simple game. Why don't we move on to the Indianapolis Colts traveling to the New York Giants? Also kind of new when it talks about fantasy. Exactly. So the Colts side of the ball, are we still rolling with Michael Pittman?
No.
Nope.
Nobody at all?
No, I'm out on my Pittman.
I'm starting Barkley, and that's it.
Maybe Isaiah Hodgins
out a little.
if you want to take
Isaiah Hodgins.
Flex. I mean, he's looked good. That's super high roller of you. If you're a team that sneaks your way into the fantasy playoff, you got lucky the last 2 weeks, and now you're about to play the team that like everybody's been like, there's no way this has been decided since week 8. You're going to win the championship, and now they're here, and they're like, well, I could have my bad week, and they've been the highest scoring pretty much every week. The boys know exactly which person I'm referencing
I am
in our fantasy league.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So congrats to that guy on winning the championship. And if you're going against that player, maybe you want to roll Isaiah Hodgins, but don't force him into your lineup after a good week in week 16.
Exactly. Well said. Another quick game we can just wrap right up. Move on to the New Orleans Saints traveling to the Philadelphia Eagles. I'll start with the Eagles side of the ball. So Miles Sanders, limited participant with the knee. A.J. Brown, limited participant with the knee. Jalen Hurts got his first throws in at practice since his injury. He was a limited participant on Thursday. I had to... okay.
Before you get into that, I just want you to know that you just did like one of my favorite things from sports analysts
with
ever.
A knee.
With a knee. Oh my gosh. Every time I watch anything sports, like, oh, he's injured, he's out with a knee. Like, thank God he has a knee. I can't imagine how long he'd be out if he didn't have one. Like, it's a knee injury. Like, what's the injury? Like, whatever. All right, sorry. Dumb little thing. Makes me laugh.
No, I didn't even realize I did it until after you said it, because I've also laughed right along with you before on that. So, my bad. Guess I've been watching too much other sports news talk.
Okay, on the same topic, is it the way you enunciate the... So, like, it's out with the knee? Like, is that better than with the knee? Like, because if you're like...
I would say with
injury.
A knee, I mean...
Just say injury and I'll be happy. Out with a knee injury.
Okay.
Got it. Out with an ankle. Good thing he has an ankle. Like, I don't understand.
I hope he has
two. Are we that short on oxygen that we need to save a whole word?
Hey, for the 240 character max generation, we got to keep it short and condensed. We're the generation that's, shortened very to V. Like it's a 4-letter word, but now everyone just says V. So,
LOL. A knee.
Anyway, sorry, George. Go ahead on your breakdown of the Eagles.
You're good. So if you're somebody who's hoping Jalen Hurts is going to come back this week, if you find out he's going to be a play, I think he's good to go right back in your lineup. But I'm still under the assumption that the Eagles are going to take it easy with him and not play him. Gardner Minshew then could be a guy who goes into your lineup as a streamer, but there's a lot of guys that I personally like better. I'm trying to think. Jared Goff is up there. Trevor Lawrence is kind of a sketchy one.
Russell Wilson.
I like him. I like him better than Russell
I
Wilson.
was going to say it, but I didn't want to get to it. But I'd play Russell Wilson over Gardner Minshew.
I'd play Daniel Jones over Gardner Minshew. I would not play Russell Wilson over Gardner Minshew, but I'll leave Cody to have that one, that hot take. Yeah, geez. And I don't think it affects AJ Brown or Devontae Smith. They've both actually been pretty solid over the last few weeks, regardless of the quarterback. Miles Sanders is a very interesting case. I want to get your guys' thoughts on how you should go along with that running back situation. So not only has he had fumbling issues last 2 weeks, he's not getting quite as many carries as we wish he would. Now, like, he's injured too. Are we just avoiding all Eagles running backs?
We're getting to a point where we can't ignore everybody.
Yeah.
We've said that about like 5 backfields now. Well, are we just... And that's where we're at with the running back position.
We're all turning into Cody.
Right, which everyone should. Wide receivers, quarterbacks, that's it. No kickers, no defenses, no running backs, no tight ends. That's how fantasy football really should be. Actually, I don't even believe that, but that'd be a lot of fun. So I think Sanders is like playable if you have other options, 100%. But like even like a Tyler Algier, like I probably would play him against the Arizona Cardinals over Miles Sanders this week. Like he's been at least consistent enough, and that might be a hot take, but that's kind of where we're at. Especially if Jalen. Yeah, I would play DeAndre Swift.
I would
Miles
do.
Sanders. I'd play.
I mean, Swift did absolutely nothing last week, so that's why I threw him out there.
It's a good comparison.
Okay, Rashad White.
Rashad White.
That's close. I'd probably play Miles Sanders.
Isaiah Pacheco.
Miles Sanders.
Sanders.
Najee Harris.
Harris.
Yeah.
Cody's still thinking.
I don't want to play Harris, but he had a decent game the last time Baltimore played, even though it's a bad matchup.
Last one, Cam Akers.
Cam Akers.
All right.
Akers could end up being the most ridiculous league winner in maybe all of fantasy history. We were completely out after we drafted him so high, and then he got dropped, and all of a sudden he's good again.
It was RB1 in the semifinals. If he's RB1 in the championship, George might have a point. But the Saints side, we're still on the Saints versus the Eagles. Olave still limited, questionable if he's going to play. Kamara, he is a DNP, but if he's out there, I'd play him. And that's probably it. I'm not feeling the Taysom Hill touchdown this week. And you can't forget Dallas Goedert on the Eagles. We didn't talk about him, but he's in your lineup.
Yeah. Are you feeling David Johnson if Kamara doesn't go?
No.
David Johnson's there?
David Johnson's there. Exactly. Yeah. The other one's Eno Benjamin, if that makes you feel any better.
I would feel better about that.
But still not enough.
But yeah, no, not at all. Not against Philly.
Oh, okay. All right. Cool. I think that wraps up Saints Eagles. We can go with 2 more 1:00 games. Carolina Panthers traveling to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The game we have been waiting for weeks, as the Panthers have a chance to take the division lead. Starting with the Buccaneers side of the ball, Julio Jones, limited participant in practice. Where have we heard that before? Literally every single episode, he's limited participant in practice. So this matchup is at least middle of the pack. Is Tom Brady a guy you'd play over Gardner Minshew?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Tom Brady's
so where does that put you
in the league in passing yards? Like, I know he's been asked, but he puts up yards.
Oh, now we're explicit.
Way to go, Cody.
Just talking about a donkey.
Yeah, that's it.
Yep.
Talk about a goat, not a donkey. You silly guy.
Got my farm animals mixed up. I'm so sorry.
Over there.
Wow, George, way to just take this to a whole new level.
I swear that's what he was going to say when he said silly guy. All right, so Buccaneers wide receivers. Hey. So I know we were giving...
Sorry, my cat was clawing the carpet. Sorry to interrupt the podcast.
I thought you had that strong of a feeling about Buccaneers wide receivers.
No.
Okay. So we were worried about Mike Evans, and then he came out and actually had a pretty solid game. We also have Chris Godwin, who's been decent. Are we still playing both in this matchup?
Yep.
Yeah, I'd play both. Chris Godwin's the one I like better, but I'd play both.
Agree completely.
Cool. And then running backs, Leonard Fournette is dealing with an injury still. He has been for the last little while. We talked a little bit about Rashad White earlier. I think we're kind of split on him. Is it still playoff Lenny, Rashad White, both or neither?
I guess White, just because we're getting to the point where it's like you gotta have to play somebody.
Yeah, I'm in that same boat. I would prefer not to play either. I'd prefer not to play any running back in this matchup.
In
But
any matchup.
White in this one. And you know what's wild?
What's that?
Mike Evans hasn't caught a touchdown pass since week 4.
That is
Wow.
wild. He's due.
Yeah,
Like he's due. Like he's on pace to have like all the targets, all the reception yards and stuff like that. But he's felt like such a disappointment in fantasy because the guy you draft solely to catch red zone touchdowns only doesn't have a touchdown since week 4.
Well, he must have been learning from Julio Jones, if you're asking me.
I'm putting money on anytime touchdown for Mike Evans.
Not a bad play. Probably good odds.
Yeah, because he hasn't scored in so long. There's your bet of the week right there. Anything else to add on the Buccaneers, or should we move on?
Panthers. Let's talk about them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, is there anything to talk about on the Panthers?
I mean, I guess DJ Moore.
Yeah, he had a pretty good week last week. And
so did Dante Foreman, actually, but I don't think we're in on that.
Well, Chuba Hubbard actually led, I believe, all the running backs there. I think even Blackshear got a touchdown. They put up a dominant rushing performance, like against the Detroit Lions
Foreman
out of nowhere.
And Blackshear got a touchdown. Chuba Hubbard had 125 yards, but not a score. So Foreman's 21 for 165 and a score led the pack.
Gotcha. So I couldn't remember if Chuba got in or not. But what I'm saying is don't chase the points. The Lions are the worst defense in the league. The Buccaneers, despite all the problems, are still top 10 against the run. Like, if you had one of the Panthers backfield, it would be Foreman because he's been kind of the guy as of late, but we just saw they all get involved. So it's another one. I don't love any of them, but we're getting to the point where you might have to play one of them.
Just a little side note, Mike Evans is plus 160 anytime touchdown, so it's really not that great of odds.
That's unfortunate. It seemed like it would have been a good bet. Still might not be bad money. But yeah, no, I'm with you on Foreman. It seems like he's been a great play when he's in a good matchup, and he's been very, very mediocre when he's not in a good matchup, and this is not a good matchup, so try to find some other options. Meanwhile, we can move on to the last 1:00 game. The Cleveland Browns traveling to the Washington Commanders. We got the Uniform Bowl here going on. Commander side of the ball, they are still missing Antonio Gibson from practice on Thursday. So we still in on Brian Robinson.
100%.
Sure, why not?
He's my favorite non-every week starter running back of the week.
Nice. And I'm sure you have him as a start then on your article on the couchgms.com, so you can go check that one out. I know that we actually didn't mention it at the top, but Taylor Heineke also got benched for Carson Wentz in this matchup. I know a lot of people were going out to get Jahan Dotson as a potential streamer for this week. They was also someone on my article for the waiver wire earlier this week. I don't really like it anymore. Am I overreacting to is Carson Wentz really going to make it any worse?
I don't think it's going to make it worse. Like, inconsistent, sometimes makes a big play, sometimes makes a boneheaded interception. Like, that's what we were at with Taylor Heineke. He had the locker room for a long time, and the move surprised me still that they went back to Carson Wentz because it seemed like at least the team was rallying around him, but they felt like they needed a spark to get them over the edge because they basically control their own playoff destiny. They have to win out to make the playoffs. If they lose this week, the Seahawks, Lions, or the Packers could pass them. So this is a huge game for them. So putting a lot of pressure on Carson Wentz, where he hasn't always excelled in. But I think the more interesting question is Curtis Samuel. He started off so hot to the season with Carson Wentz as the quarterback, and he slowed down. Tyler Heineke came back. That exchange makes Curtis Samuel more valuable in your mind than Jahan Dotson. And George, I feel like I have to ask you because you've been on the Samuel bandwagon the longest.
Yeah, I mean, I've jumped off since the Taylor Heineke switch, but you're right. Like Curtis Samuel still was fairly involved last week too. 5 catches, 52 yards, got a touchdown. All three of the receivers did well last week though, so it's kind of hard to see exactly how that went. But I think that does make Curtis Samuel the number one target in Washington again because it seemed like him and Wentz had a great connection. McLaurin obviously still probably a play in your lineups, and I think it does knock Dotson down.
I would start McLaurin first over Samuel, but
McLaurin is still the number one. Curtis Samuel becomes a potential flex play. It's still not a guy I love to throw out there, especially in a big week like this. But, if you are desperate for a receiver, Curtis Samuel is definitely that guy you can take a chance on.
or a great example of I'm going to prove my league how smart I am by playing Curtis Samuel when no one else thinks I should, because I'm in the 4th, 5th place matchup and it doesn't truly matter, and I just want to have fun and root for different guys this week.
There's always that as well.
It always matters.
Especially if you have a league format where it does make it matter, even though Cody doesn't care about our draft lottery. Maybe we don't care about your draft lottery either, Cody. Moving on to the Browns side of the ball. We have Amari Cooper was a limited participant in practice on Thursday. I think he's going to be good to go. And with the amount of targets he's been getting, he still could be in your lineup in a matchup against Washington. We also got Chubb. The question, I guess, is Deshaun Watson. He's been very up and down since he's been back. I'm still not on the bandwagon. Is that just me?
Chubb?
No, we're talking Deshaun Watson.
Sorry, no, Chubb's been great. No,
I misheard that. I thought you said, I'm not really on the Chubb bandwagon. I'm like, I'm sorry. Did I hear that right? Apparently not. No, Deshaun Watson, I mean, if we're talking streaming quarterbacks, we could throw him in the same mix as a Jared Goff, Russell Wilson. Do we like him? Do we not like him? Again, not a guy you're hoping to rely on. Is he a top 10 quarterback in the league this week for a redraft? No. So in a redraft, no, I don't like it. If you're in a 2 quarterback league though, then yeah, you have that potential of throwing him in there.
Yeah, I think that's where
would you play him over Russell Wilson?
No. Russell Wilson is on the start article, just so everyone knows.
Well, that's good because he's probably quarterback 15, so I don't understand it.
Yeah, I would not play Deshaun Watson over Russell Wilson this week. That's where I'm at.
Okay. All right, we can move to the 4 o'clock window. So we started off with the San Francisco 49ers traveling to the Las Vegas Raiders. I'll start with the 49ers because they should be easier. The Raiders got to break down a little bit. Deebo Samuel still did not participate in practice on Wednesday. We just have their Wednesday report. Christian McCaffrey, limited participant. Same with Brock Purdy. I think McCaffrey and Purdy are going to be good to go. I don't think there's really much that changes on this 49ers side. I think Brandon Ayuk is probably a safer play than he has been because he's facing the Raiders defense. Pretty good matchup there for him. But otherwise, Kittle has been coming on as of late. You can still play Purdy as a streamer, and McCaffrey is good to go.
Yeah, and just so you know, as we're recording, they did post the Thursday report. So Deebo did go from DNP to limited. Brock Purdy went from limited to full. And Christian McCaffrey went still limited, but it's his knee. We've known they're going to monitor that. He probably won't have a full practice all season. He's still good to go. But Deebo, with that slight change, I still think they're going to hold him out another week. But if he's back and they say he's good to go, are we benching Deebo? I
think you got to play him. Yeah.
I mean, if you got to your championship match, you got there without him because he hasn't played the last couple of weeks. So if you got there,
we're still talking about a top 10, top 15 wide receiver at the worst. If he's healthy enough that they're going to go, they're not even really in that much of a playoff chase anymore. I guess there's an outside chance they can get to. I don't even think there's an outside chance they get to the bye, from what I understand. So, what are they really playing for? If they bring him back, that tells me he's 100% healthy.
Okay.
Shaking your head no?
Going from DNP to limited participant means he is 100% healthy.
No, I don't think he's 100% healthy, and that's why I think he's going to sit. But, if they bring him in and make him active this week, I feel like that says that he's ready for a full workload.
I mean, I would still play him because I know who he is. I know the name. I know the talent. But I was 100% on the bandwagon before of I don't know if I want to play Deebo Samuel because I think he's going to get re-hurt. And you guys both yelled at me and said that was stupid. So here we are talking about him coming back from injury again. And I'm going to be right on the same bandwagon of I'd still be risky to play him, even if he is active, because I'm afraid he's going to get rehurt. I don't think he's fully healthy yet.
Which is why we'll see if they do sit him. But yeah, it'll be an interesting situation if they do try to start him. You can kind of use your gut to make that decision, or feel free to ask us. We'll see where your situation is. Maybe there's a situation where you've been kind of scraping along that flex position, and Deebo Samuel would still be an upgrade, even if he plays a partial game. But make sure you send us our lineup questions, especially about the Raiders side of the ball, because they benched Derek Carr. We don't really know what's going to go on with even some of their other starters here, or how far you are in on them now that they are kind of just, throwing in the white towel and saying we're done. So big guys, Devontae Adams and Josh Jacobs, are we overreacting to be worried about them?
I'll let you guys go because I have a hot take.
Tyler's probably got Cody's probably got a rant about Devontae Adams. What do you got, Tyler?
Devontae Adams is one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. Josh Jacobs has been one of the best running backs this season. That being said, they have Jarrett Stidham at quarterback, and they are going against one of the toughest defenses in the NFL this season. Do I still think they are going to get enough to be potentially playable? Sure. I don't really see any way that you are in a championship matchup right now, and you can rightfully bench Devontae Adams or Josh Jacobs. If you can, please send me a screenshot of your lineup because I'd love to see who you have. But if you do have one of those lineups that you're going to screenshot to me, I would rest them if I could. Well, not rest them. I would put them on my bench if I could, just because I don't think this team's going to be very good this game, and I think the 49ers defense is stellar.
Yeah. All right. So I don't think they're going to be very good with Jarrett Stidham. Like, I'm talking like how many times do they really cross midfield bad this week? Now, with that said, at least the 49ers are 28th in terms of how many points they give up. So they are a clean matchup for the wide receiver. So I think you can leave Devontae in your lineup. But I know it's going to be tough. If you made a championship game, it's mostly because you played Josh Jacobs. And he's the number 2 overall running back in fantasy football right now. But you need to bench him this week. The 49ers are the top team against the running backs. They have not allowed a single rusher to have over 60 yards all season. There is a new quarterback. Josh Jacobs, remember, if they're looking for the future, they even want him a part of it. He was playing in the Hall of Fame game. It could get dicey with his case. We could be looking at the up in Zamir White. He could get some.
White.
Amir Abdullah might get involved in this matchup. I know it's going to be so incredibly difficult to be sitting there in your championship matchup with Josh Jacobs, a guy that you drafted in the 3rd or 4th round. Nobody gave any hype. He became running back, and now you got to bench him. But that's what you got to do this week.
I feel like I have to throw some names out there. So Josh Jacobs or Cam Akers?
Cam Akers.
Tyler? No?
I guess Akers.
Okay. Josh Jacobs or A.J. Dillon?
A.J. Dillon.
Jacobs.
Okay. Michael Carter?
Jacobs.
J.K. Dobbins? Sorry.
I play J.K.
Carter.
Dobbins. Michael Carter's interesting. I just really don't like Jacobs this week, so I'm going to say Michael Carter.
Wow.
Dobbins.
Okay.
Brian Robinson, Tyler Algier. You want to keep going?
Devin Singletary and or James Cook?
I would play Singletary. I would play Jacobs over Cook.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I mean, I think that's gives at least a decent spot of how the mighty have fallen in that case. And you might have to play Josh Jacobs and hope it might end up being okay, but it is a risky play, unfortunately, going into your fantasy championship. Moving on to Michael Carter, who we were just debating, and his New York Jets traveling to the Seattle Seahawks. So the matchup's pretty good there for the Jets, and they are expected to get Mike White back, which is huge when you're looking at the fact that they could not move the ball with Zach Wilson and
the other guy.
whoever the other guy was.
No
I'm even forgetting.
I can't remember. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, so I'm not going to try.
It was QB4 for them even. So, like, yeah, it's the Jets getting Mike White back is huge, and it gives a boost to everybody on that roster. I think Garrett Wilson's definitely right back up to the startable section of your lineup, and you might even say Elijah Moore. Would you go that far?
No.
No? Okay.
This is actually a red matchup for the wide receivers against Seattle. I know they haven't played the best, but Wilson with Mike White's a no-brainer. But I'm not getting cute with Elijah Moore, Corey getting into that mix.
How are you getting cute enough to stream Mike White or no?
Throw him in that garbage quarterback mix I said earlier for 2 quarterback leagues, but 1 quarterback league, nope. I'm starting Garrett Wilson and nobody else.
Okay.
Yeah, and you can throw. They're pretty bad against the tight end too, so you can throw Tyler Conklin in, but we don't
debate tight ends. Good timing. Seahawks side of the ball then. Normal. I mean, our normal plays here. Is there anyone out of the ordinary? Is it Ken Walker, DK, Lockett?
Well, so we just talked about it a little bit with Deebo Samuel. About Tyler Lockett, we don't even know if he's going to play. If he does, is he right back in your lineup against a Jets defense that hasn't allowed a 100-yard receiver? I mean, Lockett had a really good 7-game stretch where he had a touchdown each week. But if he's back off of an injury that we don't, like I said, he might not even play, so that will make this debate real easy. But he's definitely one worth talking about.
If he plays, I'm playing him.
Yeah, and that's coming from somebody who's worried about playing Deebo.
It was a finger injury compared to like a lower leg muscle issue or knee injury. So
what you could say is less serious because he's not going to have a problem running routes or anything, but is he going to have problems gripping the ball?
Nah, he'll be fine.
But I think to Tyler's point, if he plays, he's been able to catch the ball off the jug machines and he'll be out there.
That's true. Okay, so we're going to go with Lockett in our lineup. I think that's a good move. Anyone else on the Seahawks, or are we going to move on?
I'm good.
No
Geno Smith.
No Geno Smith. I think he's kind of been off of our... Oh, so Geno Smith or... Wow, completely like Russell Wilson?
Russell Wilson.
Wow, okay. That's another how the mighty have fallen right there.
Minnesota
it's all
Vikings.
Matchup
based, bud.
I know it is, but the Minnesota Vikings traveling to the Green Bay Packers. Cody, take it away with the Packers injury report.
You hit him with the bud.
I'm sorry.
That was rude.
It's not rude. I called my bud.
It's kind of rude. Yeah.
It is not rude. All right, Green Bay Packers. Here's what you need to know.
Take it away, Chief.
I don't know if I
got it, guy.
I'm the dude. Anyways, Aaron Rodgers went from DNP to limited practice. He's going to play. Don't worry about his knee, but you're probably not playing him anyways because he's yet to throw for over 300 yards this season, so not a great fantasy option. Christian Watson, that was almost a terrible Freudian slip right there. Christian Watson, DNP for the second straight day. Only concerns. If he goes, I think you can still play him as a flex option because of his big playability, but it's looking less likely. Aaron Jones, this is the interesting one. He is battling a couple different injuries. He's been banged up. He's been limited. His touches have been decreased. I know George just asked me about A.J. Dillon, and A.J. Dillon's best game, you could argue, was against the Minnesota Vikings all the way back in week 1. He was catching passes out of the backfield. He was running the ball. He just missed. He got stopped on 4th down from the 1-yard line on a run play, so he didn't get the touchdown. But he has been more involved. Cold weather, divisional. I like A.J. Dillon this week. I'd probably still play Aaron Jones if he's active, but I would say I like A.J. Dillon better this week. Maybe that's a hot take for you. And then, I'm not chasing points with if one doesn't go, not chasing points with Dobbs or Lazard or Cobb or like they're just going to get 2 catches each or something like that. And Tunyon has not been Robert Tunyon we had hoped for.
Kempy, who's in the championship in our league of record, has Deshaun Watson and Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. And both of them I hate starting. And how does a team like that get to the championship? That's how fantasy's been this year.
See, I just want to say that there was a year that we made fun of Cody for drafting 2 of the top 3 quarterbacks, and those 2 of the top 3 quarterbacks were Deshaun Watson and Aaron Rodgers. And we were like, why did you draft 2 quarterbacks that high? What are you doing? And now we're talking about, oh my God, he has to start either Rodgers or Watson. This is gross.
Was that also the
Ironically,
year he went and took Lamar Jackson with the final pick of the draft?
no, that was different.
Yeah.
That was the year later.
Wasn't it?
Oh, okay.
No, it was the year later. Ironically, I was going to try to trade one, which never happened. I could never do it. And then the guy that's in with this situation, he was able to. We had another player. He took Josh Allen and Kyler Murray in the first 5 rounds, then was able to trade Kyler Murray for Michael Carter and Breece Hall. And he didn't make the championship.
Has either Aaron Rodgers or Deshaun
and
Watson.
Now Kyler Murray
it's
got
even
hurt,
better.
and yeah. So it's fantasy's been wild. So the fact that Kempe is still in it is pretty remarkable, and that's just the way the fantasy football season has gone. On the Viking side in this matchup,
Oh, you never answered the question. Watson or Rodgers?
Watson or Rodgers? Oh, Watson plays the Commanders. I'd probably lean him.
I also would go Watson. I don't like it.
Running ability. That's about it.
Right. That's literally what I went. It went down to the running ability. And could this be the first time Rodgers breaks 300 yards passing all season? It could be, but it could also be a cold game where between Dalvin Cook and A.J. Dillon, they run the ball so much that it's a quick game and limited possessions and stuff like that too. So, but speaking of Dalvin Cook, he's in your lineup. Justin Jefferson as 100% lineup. Don't get cute with that red matchup because somehow the Packers are red against wide receivers, which kind of blows my mind, but they are. And then TJ Hawkinson, he's in there, but we don't debate tight ends. And I think you could even play Kirk Cousins because the game is not at 8 o'clock. Even though he's a lot better in prime time. I kind of got to stop making that joke.
TJ Hawkinson or George Kittle?
George Kittle.
TJ Hawkinson or George Kittle? I would go with...
I only made the championship in one league, and I have both of them, so this is actually helping me.
Both.
All right, so both. Yeah, I would go George Kittle.
No.
Just based on matchup.
Yeah.
I think they're both good matchups, but I'd go George Kittle.
Kittle's been hot too. I mean, I get it. Hawkinson also just went up, but Kittle's been hot over a longer stretch.
Got it. Thanks, boys.
So
Yeah.
I know we're probably at the point where Patrick Mahomes is just going to win MVP, but
Gross.
there is a real shot that Justin Jefferson breaks the all-time receiving record and crosses 2,000 yards. Does that throw him in the mix?
Oh my God, I hope so. I just look, I've gotten to the point in my life where I will root for anyone to win MVP that's not a quarterback. I don't even care. I don't even care if there's a quarterback that broke every passing record in the world. I'll still root for somebody that's not a quarterback. I still think that there's some defensive players that should be eligible for MVP this year. But yes, I think Justin Jefferson breaks the receiving record. He should win MVP, in my opinion. Mahomes has not done anything this year that I feel like has put him above and beyond the rest of the league, especially if you look at the interceptions he's thrown this year. Like, yeah, he's gotten a lot of stats, but this isn't a stat award. It's a most valuable player award. Justin Jefferson, I mean, we're talking about Lil Kirko really falling apart, and yet we're still talking about Justin Jefferson absolutely crushing it. So I think he should, personally.
I'm with you, and it's always going to be a media award, and it's because of that. It's going to always favor the quarterback, being the guy that touches the ball every single play. But I'm with you. I think Justin Jefferson should definitely be in the running for the award, and I hope he gets it. But the thing is, people are going to say if he breaks the receiving record, he did it in one extra game. That's going to be the whole storyline.
That is true. He could go for
Unless he does it
200
this week.
I say go for 200 this week,
That's
and
true, too.
he might break it. Might need like 200 and some. I don't have the numbers up in front of me, but we'll talk more awards as we wrap up the season. We always do our own. We pick the awards. It's a fun show. But let's the last 4 o'clock window. Los Angeles Rams at the Los Angeles Chargers. Or you could call it Los Angeles Chargers at the Los Angeles Rams. I don't really think it matters. Just one team is wearing a white jersey and one team is wearing a blue jersey. That's how that one's going to work there. The Chargers, we'll start with them. And this one is the one that concerns me the most. And it's Austin Eckler. Because he's limited. And he tweaked his leg on the last play of the game. And the Chargers clinched a playoff spot this past week. And they can't catch the Chiefs for the division. So they're already playing in the wild card round. And it's the 4 o'clock game. So, like, do they pull Eckler out of precaution to save him for the playoffs, and then you're stuck, trying to pivot. I think if he's in, you play him. That's a no-brainer. But there's definitely have a plan B break class in case of emergency option with Austin Eckler in your lineup.
If I was the Chargers, I would bench him, rest him, give him a week to get ready for the playoffs.
I'm with you there too, but if they do decide to rest him, I'm trying to make sure I don't mess up who exactly. I guess Josh Kelly's been the guy that's getting most of the carries on that team. Is Joshua Kelly a plug and play if Eckler doesn't go?
I mean, it's potential. If you could have a better option, I would say do it. But if you're just really banking on it, and that's the guy that's on the waiver wire, and you can maybe pick him up before the game starts, so your opponent doesn't do it. But the Rams defense is bad enough to give up the rushing yards. I'm very interested. I still think last week was a fluke for them, and I still think they're a bad team, despite what we saw last week. So I think Joshua Kelly is potential, but that's a huge drop off from what you're expecting from Eckler down to Joshua Kelly.
Other guys on this team, we're starting Herbert, we're starting Mike Williams, we're starting Keenan Allen.
For sure.
And I think Jared Everett can still be in your lineup too, even though he threw up a 0 for you.
Yeah, we don't debate
tight ends.
Nope, exactly.
Los Angeles Rams. Look, throw Baker Mayfield in the same streaming categories we're throwing everybody else. If you're going to put up that many points against a really good defense like the Broncos, you should be considered a potential streamer with the guys like Russell Wilson and all of them that we were mentioning earlier. That's just my opinion. I'm not saying go out and start Baker anywhere, please. On the Rams side, you're starting Cam Akers. We talked about that already. Any receivers or tight ends?
I think last week was a fluke.
They scored 51 points last week. And outside of Cam Akers, I don't know who scored.
Yeah.
Did anybody score outside of Cam Akers? Maybe like the defense? Like I'll go check really quick, but was it just the defense?
No, they had other people score. I think
Tyler Higbee got 2. I forgot about that. Tyler Higbee got 2.
Yeah, so
so we're starting Higbee, but we don't debate tight ends.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I think that wraps it up, guys. So let's go ahead and move on to the Sunday night game. This game got flexed the Sunday night. It's the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Baltimore Ravens. Not exactly the powerhouse game of old that we remember seeing, but still a good game with division on the line. So Lamar did not practice again. I know they are hopeful that he comes back soon, but it's probably not going to be this week. So let's start with the Steelers. On the Steelers side of the ball, we got Najee Harris is a potential play at running back just because, I mean, look, we went through every game, and every game we're like, don't play any running backs. So at this point, I feel like you kind of have to say Najee is a starter for you, unless you really are stacked at running back, which in that case, send us your line of questions. We can fix it for you. Receivers, do we actually trust any of them?
George Pickens is my favorite. You can play him as a flex in a pinch, but I don't love it.
Yeah, I mean, I would say Pickens is the guy. The Ravens have been deceptible through the air. But here, we're rookie guys. A guy we talked about at the very top, Drake London or George Pickens?
London.
I'd say Pickens. Oh, there you go.
London's getting that volume, that the targets like almost double digit every week. I mean, he's not doing as much as Pickens does because Pickens has been more dynamic, but I still like the volume.
Yeah, I mean, Pickens still broke 50 yards last week. He is not getting the volume that a Drake London is because he does have other people around him, the Freiermuth, the Deontay Johnson. But, I mean, you start Pickens and hope for a touchdown, you're probably also starting Drake London and hoping for a touchdown. And honestly, I still think Kenny Pickett has a better chance to run a touchdown pass than Desmond Ridder.
Fair enough. Pat Freiermuth potentially on the tight end dartboard. I mean, we don't debate tight ends. Who cares? Anybody else on the Steelers side of the ball, or should we move on to the Ravens?
I'm good to move to the Ravens.
Ravens. We got J.K. Dobbins. Cool. Yeah. Mark Andrews. Quite possibly the most frustrating tight end in the second half of the year. Who else are we starting on the Ravens? Anybody?
Don't chase Tyler Huntley's points.
Nope.
Learn that lesson.
Didn't you, bud?
Yep.
Good job, Chief.
All right. Yeah, I'm right there with you. There's no one else. And, I mean, Harbaugh did say there's no snap count for Dobbins or Gus Edwards this week, which is, I forgot Gus Edwards was still there. Like, I knew he was, but in terms of fantasy, I forgot he was still there. So Dobbins is the only guy I'd play.
And they're both splitting. They have been splitting for the last few weeks, so don't take it as like, oh, J.K. Dobbins, workload's going to change. It's going to be the same as it has been.
All right, we got one final game this week, and I think it's a big one because it's a matchup of two teams that are loaded with fantasy potential, and I feel like a lot of fantasy championship games, or, you know what, I don't want to just credit the championship games. Like Cody said earlier, the third place games, the fifth place games, maybe you're just battling to not be in last. Who cares? But you're coming down to the final game, most likely, unless you're in an 18-week league, which if you are, change it. Buffalo Bills, Cincinnati Bengals. Lots of fantasy potential on this, but I feel like it's relatively cut and dry, especially on the Bills side. I feel like you got Stephon Diggs is playing, Josh Allen is playing, Dawson Knox at this point is playing. Devin Singletary, in my opinion, again, running backs suck, so Devin Singletary is probably playing. Agree, disagree, add, subtract, anybody?
Yeah, the only name I would bring up that you mentioned is Devin Singletary. I don't think he is a must play. And there is something about, it's a good matchup. We're expecting high scoring. If you're teetering between like a Devin Singletary and another guy that I'm blanking, a Rachaad White or one of the Panthers running backs, like one of those middle tier guys, get the guy that's going to play on Monday night. Like, give your full playoff championship the full slate of games. Like, that's like a dumb reason, the final factor. But if it's that close of a player, 100%. I am with that. The only thing is, the last time the Bills played on Monday night championship weekend, I heard the whole Monday throughout the day how there's no way I was going to come back and win. And then Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen went off for 3 touchdowns in the first half, and I didn't even get to enjoy the second half with the lead. So Bills have been really good on the championship.
What a beautiful day it was. I'll remember it forever. Moving on, Cincinnati Bengals.
Can I actually
George,
hit you with a little? I was going to hit you with a little bit of a what if.
Okay.
So the Bengals and Ravens are going to be playing for the division in Week 18, unless the Ravens lose and the Bengals win. So if the Ravens win on Saturday or Sunday night, it still says Saturday on a rundown. It's still throwing me off. Is there a chance the Bengals don't play anyone?
No, they can still get the 1 seed.
Okay.
They need
Bengals are playing.
But they can still get the 1 seed, that home field advantage.
Okay.
I mean, I guess by Monday, in theory, they would know. No, they're only a game behind the Chiefs, so they have the tiebreaker on, and then they would have the tiebreaker on the Bills if they beat them. 100%.
Okay.
This is more than.
Okay, so we're not worried about that. That's good.
Correct.
So yeah, Bengals side of the ball then. It is a tough matchup, but I think all your guys are still in your lineup. You could still play your Joe Burrow, Joe Mixon, T. Higgins, and Jamar Chase. I don't want to go further than that and say this is a Tyler Boyd week. If you guys differ, you could let me know, but the matchup makes me say no on that.
Yeah, I wouldn't play Tyler Boyd. Just like I wouldn't play Isaiah McKenzie.
Tyler Boyd or Gabe Davis?
I'd probably go Gabe Davis. I think Gabe Davis has more upside.
And the matchup's better.
Correct. It's a shootout game. That's what we're expecting. Yeah. So,
no Trent Irwin. The dude has been catching like 87 passes a game lately. It's super annoying.
That's another reason why I wouldn't play Tyler Boyd. He's not even really
catching a ton of passes. He's catching touchdowns. He just catches touchdowns.
He's got to stop.
Yeah.
That's like Brock Wright.
Really
who was the guy last week? Zolstra. That caught like 2 or 3 touchdowns.
Yeah. Not chasing that, but that idea.
Yeah. But this is such a great game to end the fantasy championship on. Like we said, there's so many players that have, 1, helped you get there, and 2, it'll let your matchups go down to the wire. You can trash talk all day on Monday, keep it fun, keep it interesting. But George, that wraps up the games, but I think you have one final question.
I do. So we're talking about how much of a disaster that this week is. And maybe it just happens to be that weird playoff scenarios are falling. Maybe it happens that this is just going to start to be the new norm because we haven't seen too much of an 18-week season yet in the NFL. There's a lot of clamoring on social media going about fantasy managers wanting to go back to the week 14 to 16 playoff format, shortening the regular season back down, taking the final 2 weeks off instead of just the final week. Now, I personally wouldn't go about this because I'm worried about bye weeks, but what are your guys' thoughts about taking out this wild card week 17 out of the fantasy championship week?
Not unless bye weeks get removed from week 14. I think that's if they condense bye weeks into closer to, instead of having them from week 4 to week 14, if they went from like week 7 to week 12, that's a conversation. But no way should anyone have to play in a fantasy championship when their team's on bye. Or fantasy playoffs, obviously not the championship game, but
yeah, I don't like it. I want more fantasy. I don't think you should play in the final week of the season because of the resting starters thing, but you run this risk at any time. You could see, people start resting people 2 weeks early because this game means nothing, but the next two do. I mean, it's a weird situation, but with how weird this NFL season has gone, it's always possible. And I wouldn't bank anything just off of how this season went. We didn't really see this as much last year, but this NFL season has been an absolute crapshoot. So, no, I would still stick with playing up till week 17 if it was up to me, especially with a week 14 bye.
Yeah, I think the bye is what really tips it over for me, but I'm with you too. I like the fact of having the extra week to play.
Cool. All right, that'll wrap up this week's episode. As always, thanks for listening, and good luck in what should be the last week of the fantasy playoffs.
And as always, guys, make sure you send us any questions you have, any lineup advice you need. Let us know what you thought of the podcast, what you think we should add, what you think we should remove. Take some screenshots of your roster. Let us know what team brought you to the championship or what team brought you to 10th. Let us know what your punishments are that you are getting for being in last. We'd love to hear it. Those are our favorites. Either way, this podcast is so much more fun for us and more fun for you when you get involved.
Yes, it is, Tyler, and thank you all one more time for listening into the Couch GMs podcast, and good luck in your fantasy football championships. For Tyler Snyder and Cody Roadcap, I'm George Kerth, and we will see you all next week.
Oh.
Choo-choo.